And this was Tom Brady chiming in with Colin Cowherd, sitting on Colin's couch talking about life as a quarterback. And it's something that struck Kerry's mind. He even responded to it on X at Kerry25Rhodes. If you want to find me, at Dan Beyer on Fox. But this was Tom Brady talking about life as a quarterback as you're about to call a play and the ultimate goal of that quarterback. Kerry will respond to that as someone who's defended Tom Brady before. This was Brady earlier this week with Colin Cowherd.
What are you trying to do? You're trying to give the quarterback to really be a field general. Quarterback, you got the last swipe at the pencil. The defense can call their play. They're going to line up. Offense calls a play in the huddle. They walk the line of scrimmage. Defense calls a play. They adjust to the formation offense is lined up in. They have their call set. It was always my job to say, well, I know what my play is. Now I look at the defense. Okay, I think I know what they're in. Does what I have call, is it going to work? And that was my judgment. And they would have to live and die with my judgment, the entire team. Now, I developed the trust within the team, my teammates in the organization, to say, Tom, we want you to have that. We trust you to have that final swipe at that pencil. But we're not going to snap the ball into, let's say there's a safety blitzing off the right side, and I got to run right at the right side. And I know that nobody can block him. I'm not going to snap the ball and run it into the strong safety blitzing and tackle our running back 4 yards in the backfield. I'd say, okay, if the strong safety's coming on the right and we got to play to the right, what do you want me to do? You want me to run to the left? Do you want me to check to a pass? Those are the options. That's how I would think about the game. There was always a reason why I did something. If he was blitzing off the left and I wanted to run the right, great, let's snap the ball as fast as I can.
Everything's intentional.
Everything was intentional. Yeah, there wasn't a time. I would hope that I would have never snapped the ball into a bad defense. Now, did I? Of course I did. Because sometimes the defenses wanted to disguise a lot of things. They didn't want to show me, okay, Brady likes to get a great pre-snap read. Let's really mess with him. Let's, kind of toggle the safeties back and forth. And we're going to make it challenging for him to really decipher. Buffalo, when I played Buffalo, they wouldn't move until after the ball was snapped. So if the safety was coming down on the left or on the right, they were going to do it after the snap all the time. And they would just play in this little shell defense. I'll be snapped, and here they go, they'd rotate. Because every defense has strengths and weaknesses to it. My job as a quarterback was always to delineate where the strengths and weaknesses were. And was the play that I had called, was it able to take advantage of the weaknesses of the defense? And if it couldn't, then I was supposed to get to a play that would. And I think that's part of the development that I had as a player was they gave me the tools to be able to do that. And they gave me the trust over a period of time that I was ultimately going to make the right decision for the team.
Now, I know there was a lot, but that was 2 minutes worth. Was that deja vu all over again, or?
It was deja vu and cold sweats, nightmare type stuff, because it's a real thing, yeah.
Yeah, the explanation of him going into detail, when you hear him talking about that, I will say this. I thought that he did a great job of presenting it, and I think that it actually bodes really well for his broadcasting career.
Yeah.
Now, that was a longer clip, and there were clips that were pieced together in this 5-minute clip that were circulating throughout the internet, but I think he's doing a great job of communicating. So I think it makes a lot of people excited to hear what he's going to bring in the fall.
Yeah.
But it's also, you're getting a glimpse into the greatest of all time in his thought process.
Yeah.
I've heard Aaron Rodgers say the same thing in terms of taking that play clock down to, the absolute latest that you can, so you can catch the defense and they can only do so much. But when you hear that, what comes to mind? What are the flashbacks in terms of defending Brady when you hear him go into that detail?
There's a few things on this. So, the ultimate respect for a quarterback is when the defense has to literally go into the game, and outside of the calls, you have to know that, number one, if you give that guy the answer to the test early, you have no shot, right? So, number one, going to the game, that's like the ultimate respect. And so when you play a guy like Brady, you had to be aware of that. So it's not even just being able to make the call, have the adjustments for the looks that you're going to get from them as well, but it's also knowing that I have to pay attention. Me as a leader on the defense has to pay attention to the play clock, and to know that if we give it to him early, he's going to have a chance to put them in the best possible place. So that's so many things going on in the play that the common fan may not or even care to know, but you're going to get that information from Brady now being in the booth. So that's number one. That was excellent. So when I saw it,
can I ask a quick question about that? So like if you guys break the huddle, Patriots are at the line, how do you decipher like a play clock that's at 10 and Brady snap him? Like, are you just always waiting for him to take it down to 2 or 1? Or like, because if you're in a certain look, couldn't Brady just snap it at that point? Like, how do you reason that as a defender on what you're going to do defensively if you are also watching the play clock at that point?
Well, there's a certain time. I mean, if it gets under 6 seconds, we couldn't switch anyway, so we just got to live with it.
Gotcha.
But as we were saying, like if it's 10 seconds and we know if you're playing with a smart defense and you're playing with a coach and a defensive coordinator that's given – the keys to the defense, so to speak, just the same as the quarterback would have it to the safety or the linebacker that's making those calls. It's a chess match. So we would be able to put ourselves in the best position. But under 7 seconds, you can't. It's tough, right?
Okay.
And so that would be the number one thing. But I also think when you think of guys like a Brady, outside of Brady during my playing time, the other person that was a master at doing that was Peyton Manning. And so literally I would go up or I would go back. And at the time when this was really happening, I was one of the best blitzing safeties in the game, right? And so, I mean, there was one year I led safeties with five sacks, which is a lot for a safety.
Sure.
And so I remember that year of going back and forth with like a Brady or a Manning. And even at that time, Manning was probably better than Brady. That was like 2006 or so. And so Brady got to a point of obviously getting better and better and better and more command. And all that changed. I mean, he was just a tactician when it came to that. But there were also times in the game where he said it, and the part about that clip that I loved the most was his honesty, because he didn't always get it right. And I think that part of him being able to share that with the fans and let them know that, yeah, your GOAT makes mistakes as well, because it's impossible to win and to be right all the time in that game. And so there were games when I would come down or our other safety would come down, we'd wait to the last second. The same thing he said about Buffalo, just showing that 2 shell and kind of run into their blitz or run into the safety coming down. You could get him early on with that. He's run his running back into a couple of blitzes against us when we had, really good defenses as well. So it was cool to hear that part of it. And I think the honesty with him being able to share real experiences is going to be great for the broadcast.
How does that change throughout a game for you guys? So if you stump him, he makes a mistake, you guys win in the first quarter.
Yes.
How do you change that then to try to win that in the fourth quarter?
We would switch it up. So we wouldn't show that shell. We would show that we were down and then run back out to 2 or, just playing the cat and mouse game. Yeah. We're not going to give you the same look, and you're not going to be able to decipher by just the safeties. But the really good ones, and he didn't allude to that yet, which I'm sure he will, it doesn't matter what we're doing on the back end. A lot of times in certain fronts, you can identify the defense just by the front. So you don't have to look at the secondary. So he hasn't gotten to that part yet. So we would even have late stunts by the linemen as well. So you can line up in a 3 technique and a 1 technique, and then we would shift that to a nose and a 1 technique on the snap as well. So a lot of cat and mouse.
You played for Mangini, who obviously knows the Patriots pretty well. Mm-hmm. Is that why? I mean, does everybody know this? Does all the other 31 teams in the NFL know this, or other teams that are just like, okay, we didn't realize that our front 4 is giving away what we are doing? Like because I think that there's even more to this conversation when we talk to quarterbacks, and I want to get into that as well. But defensively, like how many of those teams? I mean, is this a common thing that they know that Tom Brady knows by your front 4 setup, or are some teams kind of in the dark on some of this?
Well, some teams aren't smart enough on defense to be able to get a play call to all 11 at the last minute. So you have to know your personnel.
Sure.
So it's about that. So playing with the team, playing with the defense for a long time where you understand what you're trying to do, that would be an advantage for you, because then you're all on the string. You can all move at the same time. You can stunt. You can do all these certain things. But that comes with time and understanding the defense. And so most of the times the smartest quarterback is going to have a little bit more understanding than the defense, right? Because, in theory, the offensive guys are able to consume a lot more information than the defensive guys. You want to simplify it for the defensive guys so they can be their fastest and most efficient. Where on the offense, you're trying to get in the best play, and you have time to do that because the way that you're navigating that, and if you have the general to get that done, you will be at a little bit more of an advantage, because defense is reactive, offense is on the attack. And so if you can get to a defense where you're not reacting and you can get into a new call really quickly and seamlessly, then the playing feels a little bit more even.
What else did you write? Did you have something else? You said the first thing was just the response time. Was there something else that because I wanted to follow up on what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I think the tiers of what makes a quarterback great, right? I think number one, like we said, the ultimate, getting into the best play is one of the biggest skill sets. And you could think, and you can hear this, and you could see it when you see the young quarterbacks play. You can see all the potential. He has potential to make all the throws. He's a great athlete. And none of that matters if you can't get into the best play for that.
Sure.
For what you need on the field, because your one guy isn't going to be better than 11 if they're on the same page. And so I think that's the number one thing that makes the greats the great at the end of the day, because there's tiers. There's really good quarterbacks, and there's quarterbacks that are Hall of Famers that aren't on the tier of a Brady or, a Manning or Joe Montana or whatever, right? But they're like right there. He'd be like, Aaron Rodgers, he's so skilled. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen. But there's still levels to being that GOAT guy.
Yeah, there was a time when Rodgers would take delay of games because he's pushing it so much and would be criticized for it. I think I've said this to you on this program. I had always heard that when you compared Brady and Manning, was that Manning would look for the perfect play against your defense.
Yep.
And Brady would look for the weakest part of your defense. But hearing Brady explain what he was doing, it sounded more about what I thought Peyton did in terms of trying to find that right play. But that was the reason why I thought guys like James White and Kevin Funk and all of these Deion Lewis guys out of the backfield would, be able to rack up all these numbers, because Tom Brady was willing to go to option 5.
Yeah.
That he knew that the first 4, the first 3 were taken care of. But it does sound like obviously there may be a mix of both, but it sounds more of still trying to find that perfect play that Brady was trying to do, as opposed to maybe going to option 4 or 5.
Yeah, and the other thing about that, Dan, is the knowledge of the defense again. So when you're a great defense and a smart defense, just like the quarterback knows where the weakness is, so do we.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. There's something that we're trying and we will allow you to have. Now, you have to get to that, and you have to recognize that. But are you going to recognize that in quick enough time to diagnose that and get it out? Because we also are disguising that. So even though we know the weakness, so if I know we're in a fire zone defense, the potential of you being able to hit a seam down the middle on our backer that may be covering your guy that has to carry the seam and go vertical, I know there's a safety, so I may show cover 2 to show you that there is a weakness there that you can hit that. And I'm going to come over and pick the ball over the top because I know that's the weakness. It's a lot.
Yeah, isn't that the famous clip that Ed Reed did that, showed the Colts on tape?
Yeah.
In previous games, he would do a thing because he knew Manning had a tendency to pump and then throw at the same receiver that he pumped to.
Yes.
So,
you go, Dan.
Reed had disguised it in previous games to think that when they would face the Colts, Peyton would know that Reed on that pump would go to the other side, but Reed knew in his head that he would go back, and then he ended up getting the interception.
If all the things about football that I don't miss, because I don't miss playing at all, but the chess match of outwitting you on the play for me is the ultimate thing. There was a game I can remember this like as clear as day, but we played New England. It was game 2 of the season, and it may be 4, but it was early on in the season, and we showed this look because I think we saw it on film the year prior, and nobody had done it since. But we lined up all 11 guys on the line.
Okay. Punt block?
Yes. Yeah. All 11.
Yeah.
And Brady looked at it and he was like, no, timeout. He called timeout. They come back. We come back in that same front. Now, you got 6 guys, possibly 7 that can stand and block.
Yeah.
And so you have to point the direction and the protection in the right way. And, of course, there's a weakness on offense, right? If there's a blitz coming, you're going to allow if you have not enough guys to protect that guy, you're going to let that end guy go because he has the longest distance to get to the quarterback, right? It makes sense. But if you turn a protection and you don't touch him at all, a guy like myself coming off the edge is a little bit faster anyway than our DN would be. He couldn't get the protection right the first time. I come off a blitz. It's third down. I strip sack Brady. We get back in the game. We score. We make it a 3-point game. And just the confusion from there on. We did that all year. Even we played them in the playoffs that year. They were ready in the playoffs, though.
Sure. Yeah, of course they were.
At that point. But you could see how him not being able to have the answer to the test was such a big deal. And that's for any quarterback.
What I think is missing from this Tom Brady conversation, two things I want to point out. Number one, for as great as Tom Brady is, Tom Brady did not learn all this by himself.
No.
And we find out that we had known for the last few years that the Brady-Manning relationship was closer than people realized, and them not just being rivals, that they were actually friends off the field. And now we're hearing more and more stories of them working out together in the off seasons and being together. So we know that the relationship is there. So Tom Brady learned from Peyton Manning, just like Peyton Manning probably learned from Tom Brady. But you're right. At the time that you were playing, Peyton Manning was considered the better quarterback at that time. Mm-hmm. And I think stats even prove that. But what it tells me is that Tom Brady also had to learn this stuff from somewhere, that not all of this is something that is, inherent or that you bring to the game and that you're different than everyone else. Someone taught you this. And I do think that there are Bill Belichick fingerprints on this. And so when you're talking about who's the GOAT, who is the real reason, Tom Brady didn't learn all of this stuff. And Tom Brady didn't, as he was learning it, probably knew this stuff, Kerry, sooner than when he could actually physically do all of this stuff or could actually put it into motion in a game. So Brady breaking all of this down, and he does sound like a genius, and he does sound like a quarterback savant, but he had to learn it from somewhere, and I think that's a testament to Bill Belichick.
Yeah, number one, the biggest thing in the NFL is the coaching. It's just, it is what it is. If you don't have that person in control of an organization that's demanding excellence, you won't get it. So that's number one. Bill Belichick demanded excellence, and he was leaving no stones unturned. So that's number one. But also the flip side of that is realizing the potential or the capacity of knowledge to be there and to be learned. And obviously, Brady was a sponge.
This is the other part of the conversation, and it has nothing to do with the Belichick or Charlie Weiss or Josh McDaniels. It has to do with the other quarterbacks in the NFL. So when you find out that Kyler Murray plays a lot of video games, this is why you would be annoyed by that. Because look at everything that Brady is processing.
Yeah.
Like Mac Jones, think about Mac Jones and now having to go in and trying to fill the shoes of Brady. He had to be swimming, needing a life preserver to just keep his head above water.
Yeah.
Because if you're expecting him to do the same as Tom Brady, not a chance. And I think that also sheds light on why maybe certain quarterbacks don't work out, because they can't grasp everything that Brady grasped in that 2-minute clip.
Yeah, it takes way more than talent and skill. It takes dedication. And when you're the number one guy on the team playing that quarterback position, that is obviously the prototype and the model you'd want to follow.
And you, during the break, I think we can reveal this, said the quarterback that maybe we don't always think of as being dangerous, but was dangerous was?
Oh, Jay Cutler. But I'm just comparing him to Herbert or somebody now. Like the potential, the game, if he has his best game, you're in trouble. But if he doesn't, then you're fine. But Cutler had more mediocre games than great ones, though.